Hello and welcome. My name is Charles C. Gaines, and you are about to watch one of our very first recordings from DeltaERC, our Ask the Expert. I'm excited about today. I've got a lot of questions. I have a lot of my customers and friends that have questions about the Employee Retention Tax Credit. So if you've got questions, you've come to the right place. And I want to bring to the stage Grant Deviney. Grant, thanks so much for joining us. Grant is the owner. You tell me a little bit about your company, DeltaERC. You are the grand poobah. You are the man with the answers. Thank you so much for taking some time to meet with me and some of the people that will be viewing this recording. What's up, man?
Hey, I appreciate it. Glad to be here. Glad to chat and put some good information out there about this program that's misunderstood.
Absolutely. Well, just real quick, give us kind of the high level about DeltaERC. What's your company about? What have you guys been doing for the last couple of years?
Sure. Well, I'll give the very Reader's Digest of my introduction to the Employee Retention Credit. Owned a couple of franchises and was solicited to qualify for the Employee Retention Credit through a company named Jorns and Associates, and have since sold those franchises. They did all the work for us. I was not unemployed. I've got a couple of teenagers, some in college, and couldn't make that retirement decision yet. So they found out about it, knew I was entrepreneurial minded, and said, "Hey, how would you like to take that program that you took advantage of for your franchises and help some other businesses get it?" And I was like, "Well, I talked to my wife about it, prayed about it." A couple of weeks later, in February of 22, we decided that this looks like a real thing. Let's see what we can do with it. And thus, DeltaERC was formed. Formed on the premise of going out and helping a few businesses that we knew, consult with them, educate them about this program, and ultimately engage them with what was and still remains to be one of the top firms out there performing these evaluations in and around the Employee Retention Tax Credit. We refer to it as ERC. It's just a lot easier, and most people have heard about it under those terms. But that was our beginnings.
So your businesses went through it yourself, and then they came and said, "You get it. Would you like us to help grow this and spread the word?" Right?
That's exactly the inception of the company. Again, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, been a career entrepreneur. My wife calls it a disease, but bounced around. I'll figure out what I want to do when I grow up. But it's been really engaged. Probably the most fun I've had in my life. When giving away money to people that they don't really know that they qualify or surely have misunderstood, and taking a few minutes with fellow business owners that survived a pretty disastrous time in our country's history of the pandemic that kept people working and I won't say rewarded. I mean, this is a program they've paid their funds in. So it's getting those funds back to them, and doing some good for just keeping people working.
Absolutely. Well, that's why it was such a good match. You were introduced to me by a mutual friend, and I had a lot of questions. And so I thought, this is what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about connecting small business owners to great opportunities. My background is in marketing and technology and really storytelling. I try to help companies tell their story in a lot of different ways for the last 35 years. The methods have just changed. And so what we're doing right now in this recorded session, I think there's a need, and we've talked about doing this more regularly. And so my hope is you could tell us in the comments below that you like this. Be sure and like this, spread it to other people. Again, there's so much misinformation about there, and that's really where I want to start. And that's why I wanted us to start doing this recording and some in the future to dispel some of those myths and to help with, I know that's what you're dealing with, and you bring such a fresh, comfortable approach, a real approachable kind of guy. And I just think that's what we're looking for. And I'm really excited when I find somebody like that can just sit down, cut through all the BS and just say, help me understand this, because there has been a lot of misinformation. There's been horrible headlines. It's like anything really good that comes out, there's a portion of our humanity that takes advantage of it and makes a mess of things for the rest of us. But there is certainly truth there. There is certainly opportunity there. And that's what I was really drawn to. So let's start just a little bit talking about some of this misinformation. And there are several topics and questions. There is information on your website. If you guys would like to follow up later on, we'll get you that URL. But let's begin by talking a little bit about the misinformation and maybe for my benefit, talk to me like I'm a fifth grader. Okay. So walk me through the actual overview of the ERC, and that's going to then easily send us in a discussion of some of the myths and the facts.
Sure, sure. Well, so the employee retention credit, as we said earlier, employee retention tax credit, sort of shortened to ERC, was born out of the CARES Act, was underutilized in those first years through 2020, was re-engineered through some different legislative acts in 2021 that basically took from just a little peephole to a airline hangar door flying open for additional ways to qualify. Most of the people that misunderstand the program hang their hat on those first rendition of the program. They didn't take the time. They don't do this as a specialty tax firm. They don't do this as all they do. So they don't really concern themselves. They didn't drill down into that second parts of the legislative acts, 200 some odd pages of legislation. Who likes to read that? Jordan's and Associates says, hey, we do. We're going to take this. We're going to drill down with it, and we're going to run. It was born out of an entrepreneurial side of a thing. An accountant called one of his clients and said, hey, you're going to get some money back. And here's why you're going to get some money back. You kept people working during the pandemic. And he's like, what? I want to tell some other people about that. And they pulled out of a standard accounting firm and created a specialty tax firm of Jordan's and Associates. So that was the inception of the program. So it really comes down to, if you kept people working, if you were W-2 employees, 5 or more employees, and you kept them working during the pandemic, and the qualifying quarters are 2020, the last 3 of 2020, first 3 of 2021, then you are eligible for this program. You're eligible. Unless you're a government entity, you're eligible. So then it comes down to some qualifications, and there are some pretty interesting algorithms and legalese of 20% quarter over quarter loss, year over year, and that's the low hanging side of this. But then it gets to some additional legislation opens the door for dozens of other ways of impacts of what's called nominal impact. Most of our clients, most of what we do, qualify under that nominal impact. Again, it was legislated, it was there, the playing field, the rules were drawn. It's just a matter of, do you understand what is there? And Jordan's and Associates grew to $1 billion in the first year, and are sitting at about $10 billion, 20,000 plus engagements now. The pathway's been cleared. The experience has been there. We just found out recently this week that of those 20,000 engagements, of that 10 billion in filings, 20 of those filings have had just an inquiry by the IRS, and between 500 plus analysts, CPAs, tax attorneys, enrolled IRS agents, all satisfied those 20 inquiries, and it's clean sailing. So it's a pleasure. I've said a lot there to unpack, but it's so awesome setting the stage to, I didn't exactly set out to do this. It's a infancy program. It has a shelf life kind of a program, but to know that I'm being represented by just the number one specialty firm out there behind a $10 billion company backing what we're doing is pretty awesome.
Yeah, do me a favor before we go much further. Let's further clarification of Jordan's and Associates. I think you had said to me that was very interesting is they're literally they're I want to say in the hip. That's not the right term. Jordan's and Associates not only specializes in this, but in their history and their experience, but their relationship with the IRS and having people on staff, having that joint relationship, that connectivity makes them very, very unique. And so just help further understand the difference between Delta and what you're doing and Jordan's and the relationship you guys have.
Sure. Well, so we're a marketing arm. We're the educational arm. They don't do any kind of marketing. They don't put themselves out there that way. They focus on doing what they do and do it well, which is accounting. They're bean counters, they're analysts, they're in that nature. Obviously, they've got business development and accounts payable, accounts receivable. They've got the typical business makeup, but their focus, what they do, is specialty tax services. And right now, the only specialty tax service that's out there, primarily is the employee retention credit, but that is their focus. That's all they're focusing on. They're not doing 1099s. They're not doing W-2 work. They're not doing tax returns for people. They are doing the employee retention tax credit. And in doing so, we say that when things around you talked about some of the bad apples in this $2 trillion industry, you knew it would attract some. Well, when the dark starts coming around you, when you're shining light, your light shines brighter. And that recently happened with the IRS putting Jorns and Associate being recognized as one of the tax professionals doing this. So they are listed out there. There's others that are out there, but as a specialty tax firm, they are one of the approved vendors that are service. And they have on their staff, I mean, it grew from an accountant of one and staff and grew, and they've grown to this 500 plus employees, analysts, CPAs, tax attorneys, enrolled IRS agents is probably one of the words that you picked up on, which is a certification in the accounting world of just higher level respect, if you would. And we're the only of these big three that are in this industry as a specialty tax of the big three that has CPAs or enrolled IRS agents that do the final audit. And it's gone through 4 or 5 additional audits before everybody signs this thing and sends it in to the Treasury Department, to the IRS for filing. But they set themselves apart with the dedication to accuracy and compliance. I mean, that's a word that you hear a lot with us. They're going to fight for every penny that you can get out of this program. They're going to maximize what you get. They're not going to fight for a penny more because they're going to stand behind and justify everything that they do.
Excellent. Okay, so I want to kind of do some quick hits on some of these myths and facts, okay? Before I do that, I want to remind you that if you're probably watching this after the fact, be sure and hit the like button, share this with a friend or someone in business that has questions about this, or somebody that just really needs a shot in the arm. Again, we're going to talk in a minute that there's a window to this. This isn't going to go on forever. It seemed like it for so long now, but there is going to be an end to it. And so it's going to be very frustrating when you look back and say, what could have been? I could have had, 6 figures coming back to my business that just has gone away now. And just for a little bit of time in the right relationship, somebody that I trusted could go to bat for me, could be huge. What could you do with that? So pass that on. Put your questions in the comments. If you got a question for Grant or for us here, put that in the comments. All right, let's dive into some of the myths or facts. And this is an area. It's kind of the elephant in the room, because when you talk to people about anything, the first thing that's going to come up is something they've heard over coffee, over dinner. Well, Bob did this, and he was asked to cook his books, and he got all freaked out. And you're like, wait, let's really unpack that a little bit. So there's lots of myths to this, and so I kind of want to hit some of these. But right off the bat, let me get one of mine in. You guys are going in and looking at the it's like any kind of going to a CPA. They represent that middleman to the IRS to say, let me look through the books. I've been trained. And you can sit down and tell your accountant anything. Hey, I want to get as close to the edge as possible, but I want to know all my opportunities and all that kind of stuff. You guys are not in the business of getting people to change numbers or do anything different. It's to look at what was their experience. Because one of the questions is going to come up, man, I made money. I had a great, quarter or year or whatever during the pandemic. Ain't no way I'm going to qualify. But I've heard from guys that I know, man, my CPA got real nervous because they asked him to make some changes. Could you address that one right off the bat?
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's a great question. I had that one this morning already with a client. Well, my accountant said I didn't qualify. My accountant said to leave me alone. Well, I'm one of those guys. My accountant told me not to do it too for my franchises. As he got to know the program and then helped me start this business, he's become one of my best referring agents out there. All of his accountants have now done ERC. If they had employees, they've done ERC with us. So it's really about just a pure misunderstanding from the accountant side of things. The program's real. It's out there. You don't go to a dentist to do your orthodontics work. They refer you out for the dental surgery. They're working in the same venue. I talk about dentists. I went to the dentist this morning. So good little thought. But The accountant does what they do. The dentist does what they do. The specialist, the oral surgeon does what they do. They do what they do. Jorns dissects all of the data. The government, IRS already has your W-2. You've got your 941s. You've already submitted that. They know the numbers. When they put all this budget together, and when they estimated the 80+% of the businesses would qualify for this that are out there, they put that into a number into this package and came up with, okay, this is what we're going to have to pay out on this. When they did that, they knew those hard numbers. So the numbers don't change. So it's a question on the qualifications. Do you meet the criteria? Well, the criteria is not even subjective because it's hard numbers. Did you experience a loss? The front side, as we talked about, the 2020 portion of the CARES Act is very black and white definitive. Over this quarter to this quarter, did you experience this amount of loss? The second side of that legislation that comes in says, well, there's nominal impact. Were your shipping routes in and out affected? Were your conferences canceled? Did you have a hard time sourcing products from areas? So it still all comes back to government orders and shutdowns. All of them tie back to that. And the negative impact, even if nominal, thus the name nominal impact, happens. And what we find is I'll give an example. One of the best examples of this is I had a local here, rural America, oil change shop where you pull in and they just quick change your oil, and they'll check your brakes and realize, oh, okay, well, you've got other things going on. Move over to this side and we'll change your oil and we'll work on your brakes, change your brake pads, rotate your tires, sell you new tires, do an inspection. So what happened in their particular business is every transaction ran through one register tape. All of these areas of their business, just good old rural America, ran it through one business. So when Jorns came back to them and says, well, we really need you to look at your segmented revenues. Let's look at your tire oil changes versus your tire sales. Let's look at those. And can we take your bottom line, not change it at all, but can we segment it over these quarters to where, well, let's think about this. Do you think more tires were being sold when we did more communication like this and Zoom and everything went virtual and you were staying home and nobody got together and you weren't driving as much? Their tire sales plummeted. Now, they still did their oil changes and made up through some of these other categories, but they were able to segment their tire sales. They couldn't get tires. Their tire sales were down. That alone more than satisfied the nominal impact. Now, they're not just going to check that one box. They're going to look at all the other segments, lay the template on everything else. So when I hear, well, my accountant said I didn't qualify, all I am hearing is well, my accountant's not qualified to or they're unfortunately misadvising their clients not to let someone that does this for a living, knows all the caveats, knows all the nuances about it, at least perform the evaluation for this. And I know I drilled down in a lot of ways. Did I answer your direct question there about the accountant?
Absolutely. We may come back a little bit about the profit thing, but I think that pretty much takes care of it. And let me ask you this. So if my fear is, oh boy, my CPA is really going to get pissed off. He's going to get questioned and I don't need the aggravation. Talk to me just a little bit about how Jorns handles working with those guys. I would imagine that's one of the big challenges that you've had. I mean, you've done so many of these. Maybe speak just a little bit to the objection that says, man, I really want to do that. Now, most of the guys are like, look, I'm running my business. I'm not running a charity here. So if I can get my money back, I'm going to get it. Things are tight enough. I don't want to upset my CPA and I don't want to poke the bear unnecessarily, but walk me through a little bit about how you guys handle that. I've dealt with it on my side. I deal with processes. I deal with applications, and we come in and we're working on a whole new system. And we're trying to say, okay, Mr. Accountant, you're going to move from QuickBooks over to this. Well, you would have thought, I went after their kids. And so they raise all sorts of cane. And so I'm trying to make a friend. Talk just a little bit about that dynamic.
Well, I think you bring up a really interesting point. Of all of these kind of conversations I've had, I've never really had it asked that way. So bear with me on the answer. ultimately the accountant works for you, the business client. I mean, you are paying them for your advice. You don't go to a cancer doctor to not take their advice. So I don't disparage an accountant at all. But the whole point of this, and if anybody on this call doesn't hear anything else, they need to hear this portion. You are in control of this from the start to the finish as the client. You, just because you engage them to perform the evaluation does not saying signing your firstborn away and you're already committed to filing for this. And no, you've committed to them to they're going to perform an evaluation. They're going to give you their professional opinion out of all that experience with professionals that only focus in this area. And they're going to present to you a very comprehensive qualification report that says, here's how you qualify, that you qualify, how much you qualify, and here's the comprehensive, not just boxes checked. Here's how you qualified. Here's the supporting materials for that. These qualification reports are 70 and 80 pages long, created by these professionals that are doing this. So I say at the end of the day, why would an accountant not want you to maximize? These are your funds. They're sitting there. They've already been allocated for you. You either qualify or you don't. So back to the point of trying to bring back to and answer your question. What do you tell an accountant? Hey, listen, I've got this ERC thing. I really could use the funds. You know, I don't think any business owner is really seeing that. Most are, if they are lucky enough to be flat, most are declining. Why would you not explore every opportunity to receive funds, especially a refund of your tax dollars that you've already paid in, that you've earned by keeping the people employed? So it's an appeal to them. The simple engagement from the accountant side is very little. There's only three pieces of three categories of information that's needed here. One is just your revenues broken down by quarter, and the more segmented, we've already talked about the segmented revenues, the more broken down it is, the better. If you're working in QuickBooks, you're Sage, some kind of accounting process, you're doing that in-house anyway. But if your accountant's doing that for you, it's point and click on categories and pulling the needed reports. An hour's worth of work. Your 941s you've already sent to the government. Your P&L statements already part of your accounting package. You're typically looking hour and a half worth of work to pull those that your account. Just give me the information. Let's let them evaluate. The other piece, that third component, is a questionnaire that's answered by the business owner. That's going to take 45 minutes to an hour, but it's going to talk about a lot of those areas. Where do you ship to? Where do you get resources from? Where do you do business? What kind of business do you do? What was the impact? Did you have to build PPE and 6 feet apart and mask and clean every night, or close down a day to clean, or miss conferences? It's going to ask all of those questions that'll start identifying. So all of that comes back to the effort from the accountant side of things is pretty minimal. And why would they not want their clients to explore every opportunity to do? I mean, if this is a proven, known, legitimate funded plan to help those businesses, you know, and it's hard as we sit here 2 years out of the pandemic, 3 years now out of the pandemic, and forget the hardships that were created by that. And we're not going to get into a political discussion about that, but it was not a pretty time for business owners. I mean, for my business, I mean, we were literally, doors were shut for 90 days. We had no choice for 90 days. Now, we were still negatively impacted for years after that, through me selling the business. And my business partner is the one that bought me out, and I still talk to him. He's still facing the build back up of the business from that. So why in the world would an accountant with the best interest of their client's heart not at least be advising, as my accountant who educated himself, who allowed me to educate himself about this process, understood and says, listen, I don't want to touch it. I don't want nothing to do with it, but every one of my clients need to do it. Please, here's Bob, here's Sam, here's some, you know, all of his businesses. Go help them out.
Well said. No, exactly. And I just think that's how you address that head on. And you said it very eloquently. So let me just make sure I'm clear on the, hey man, I can't qualify because, man, we killed it. Are you saying segmentation is the key to that, or do you want to address this more directly? Hey, I made a lot of money. My books were great. I don't even mess with that. I don't even need to mess with that. What's the answer to that?
Well, I run into that on a daily basis. By nature of if your doors stayed open, if you weren't shuttered, if you kept people working, there was a segment of the marketplace that wanted to go do business. They wanted to come and spend their money. That it was a change of habit. So by proxy of staying open, by keeping employees, you may have made money. There's plenty that did. Matter of fact, I would dare say a majority of the companies that we dealt with made money during that period of time. But it was not from out of the opportunity. It was because they reinvented themselves. They were driving down the interstate, and they noticed that there's a 4-lane accident ahead of them. Shut off everything. Siri's not working. But they know the backcountry roads. They can jump off this exit, navigate that accident, and stay on course. Well, by being able to navigate that accident and stay on course, by reinventing, by sending everybody home with laptops so that you can still do sales calls and Zoom meetings, by putting up the plexiglass and rerouting your people and bringing on texting technologies of how to bring people, by reinventing your business, you were able to stay alive. Those are the type things that you as a business owner applaud yourself. You stayed alive. You did well. Well, the fact that you did well doesn't disqualify you from the program. I'd even pose out there, may even qualify you that much more because of the heartache that you had to do in order to survive. So those that have heard, well, my accountant said no, we've talked about that. Well, I did better during this. Well, yes, but at what cost? Are you still going to be able to stay on your long-term goals from where you have been had this not happened? Some people can still answer yes to that. Well, it doesn't disqualify you, but these funds were allocated to you. And let me frame this then, because I haven't said this, and I think it's really important to insert this as we're trying to really frame and people, your listeners, to wrap their arms around why is this program? You kept people working. The federal government during this time were paying people to stay home, watch Netflix, eat Doritos. They were paying them their unemployment checks. Well, those people, right, wrong, indifferent, not a political discussion, they were out of the work pool. They did not want to come to work because they were either scared from the pandemic or they were making the same amount of money or even more money to stay home. Why would they want to change that behavior? Well, you're trying to survive. You're trying to protect your life savings invested in your business and doing everything you can, even if it was out of necessity, to keep the doors open, put plexiglass up, stay 6 feet apart, do all that you did to navigate this while you're fighting the government for paying these people to stay home. You paid your federal taxes on those people that did come into work. You had to pay hazard pay to get them to come into work. All of those things is really the spirit. If I'm a career entrepreneur. I've been in and out of a lot of different businesses and industries. And if anything was ever gotten right with the right intent, it was this program. Not as a reward program, but as we really did those people wrong. We're going to try to make it right. So I think that's important to understand about the why this program, why you would qualify. And don't feel entitled. This is not about entitled. This is not a reward for surviving the pandemic. This is retribution. This is a refund. I mean, it shows up as a refund. And when that check comes back to you, it shows up overpayment of taxes. So take advantage of it.
If you just stumbled onto this video, you can see why I got excited about this, and the way Grant presents it in a no-nonsense way is exciting. So please ask your question down in the comments, and we'll follow up with that. Again, we're going to try to do several of these because the time's ticking. And so that's good news. That's great news to hear. And we went through a lot of bad news, and we felt like we weren't heard. And this is exciting. All right, so we got a couple more I want to hit. Okay, so you talked about stimulus. Well, okay, man, this sounds great, but I've already gotten my portion. There ain't anything left. I need to just go on. I'm focused on trying to stay alive because they already gave me some money. I can't qualify.
Well, and I think that's a real thing. If you looked at the CARES Act, it was a trifecta: PPP, and then PPP2 came out, and then ERC was sort of the third tier of this sort of a creation out of the CARES Act. PPP is you can't double count the money, but it's not a dollar for dollar. PPP was a after qualification process. Okay, here's the money. Keep your people fed. Keep them employed. And then if you did that and didn't go buy a new yacht, we'll clear out your give you credit. It won't be a loan. We'll clear your loan, and you get to keep the money, and all is well. Well, great. Part of your evaluations, Jorns will look at that. They'll look at your forgiveness application, how you applied to payroll, to expenses, to this big, complicated, crazy algorithm for calculating that. Jorns and Associates, about 6 months in, spent about a little over $1 million in an algorithm and a program that takes all of those numbers, how you allocated, what you did, how you spent all those taxes, and works it way above my pay grade. And it spits out a number. It spits out a number that they guarantee, they go to bat for, they promise and go on, they contract that they're going to guarantee that number. And it does not have a full dollar for dollar impact. As a matter of fact, it's pretty nominal in the impact that it has, because you're still able to take advantage of the ERC program.
Okay. So just because I received some funds during that period, by no means disqualifies me for this.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. Does not disqualify. And again, that's what you're engaging Jorns for, is, okay, doesn't disqualify me, but what's the impact? Well,
what's left? Yeah, exactly. Okay. It is figured into it, but it's certainly not a deal killer. Okay. And I bet you have story after story to say, you've got peanuts, but you had a huge check coming your way and you had no idea.
Well, we actually, for our business, we were very labor heavy. We were service oriented, so people were our product, and we got more money from ERC than we did from PPP.
Wow. But got both.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Wow, that's crazy. Okay, so the natural thought then next is, this is just free money. And you may take it that one of two ways. I want to get everything that I'm due, but you also may be philosophically, that's part of the problem. I don't want to be part of the problem. I want to be part of the solution. So are these funds just free?
Well, you've already paid them in. So no, they're not free. It's based off of your taxes, off of your federal dollars. And we talked a little bit about how that was calculated earlier in the call, of just, it is your federal FICA, Social Security, federal funds, not on the state level, that were paid in, your W-2s that go out to your employees, the 941s that reconcile that. Those numbers is where the base starts. Now, there's some stimulus money on top of that. But again, I would pose that that's earned by every individual that will listen to this call, if you were eligible, if you kept the employees working, no matter what you were doing. Essential or non-essential businesses. We do a lot of work in the lumber industry. Was a very essential industry that boomed during this time. But again, if you look at their long-term goals, they reinvented themselves. They sold more of this. Heck, they started doing more pulpwood, so we all had toilet paper. They changed the course, but now 2-3 years later, they're paying the piper of that course change, and it's having the negative impact now. So free money is nothing in life is free, but those funds have been paid in by you as a business owner. This is not a loan. You qualify for them to come back to you. They're allocated. They're yours.
Great explanation. All right. What about nonprofits? Surely they're not included in this, right?
Well, no, actually they are, because this is a W-2 wage program. So if these nonprofits had W-2, 500 employees, had that many out there, and we're kept those people working, same application. Then they'll go through the qualification process to see the nuances and how they would qualify.
The same thing still applies. You kept the doors open. In fact, I would say probably more than ever, the nonprofits felt the burden because they were called upon even more so. And so, it goes back to what you said earlier. you kept those jobs going. You kept those people employed. You had the same exact problems and issues and hardships we all went through. You kept them off the government's payroll. I think that's one of the most important things that you say to people is look at it from their perspective. You know, I mean, you really helped them. You were part of that solution. So to me, I'm fascinated with economic trends. I'm fascinated with, you know, how we as a species, how we adapt to things like this, whether it's war, whether it's, you know, famine, whether it's stock market crashes, and how history will look back on that period and how many pivots small businesses had to make, you know, and become better at what they do. I get all wrapped up in how we did business and how we're doing business now, you know,
Right.
whether it's electronic or otherwise, and the pivots we made that made us stronger and better as a country, quite frankly. And so I just find that fascinating. We've talked a lot about, you know, I've already tried, but I don't qualify. So I'm not going to spend any more time on that. If you've got another question that we didn't tap on that, put it in the comments and let us know. But as we start to kind of wind down a little bit, let's address the, look, man, I am just a one-arm paper hanger. I got more than I can say grace over. I just don't have time for this. And it's too risky and it's too complex and yada, yada, yada. Just another thing to jack with. Let's address that as we start to kind of wind this down a little bit. Is it risky? What am I risking? Is it too complex? Is it going to eat up too much of my bandwidth? I just can't. I don't have room for another thing.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I teach in most of my management training and in classes and people I work with, and then bring it home for my kids, opportunity cost. And I think that is a question that every business owner has to ask themselves. What is the opportunity cost of the time? As far as the risk, you have the number one specialty tax firm out there. They've done it 20,000 plus engagements, $10 billion filed for it. They know what they're doing. They put their money where their mouth is. They contract for long-term support. They're not just preparing this. These CPAs, enrolled IRS agents, tax attorneys, they're signing off on this with you. Their signature goes on this with you. They have a $6 million errors and omissions policy, $1 million for each quarter that's filed. So they have everything in place to stand behind the legitimacy of this. So back to the opportunity cost. I'm a one-arm paper hanger. How much time? Well, I talked to it a minute or two ago. It's going to take you a couple hours to fill out the paperwork. Are some businesses larger, more complex, going to take 4 to 5 hours, 6 hours? Absolutely. But the larger you are, the more you had in the way of employees, the more you're going to be eligible for. So the risk reward is not risk on it's going to trigger an audit. It's risky money. I'm walking across dangerous waters. It's how much can I afford to take the time? Well, I pose the question, can you afford not to take the time? In the status and the climate of the economy and where we are, people are looking for funding every single way. You're looking to drive more customers. You're looking for capitalization. You're looking to pay off debt, whatever it may be. Risk reward. We haven't even talked about the funds of this. The program in inception is up to $26,000 per employee. Reality, we're seeing between $15,000 and $20,000 per employee. So if you take an average 5-employee company out there, your small coffee shops that may be here, and then you can take the multiple if you're a 200-employee manufacturing plant listening to this. But 5-employee coffee shop, that's $100,000 of eligibility that's going to be there of reality. I mean, if you take the multiple times 26,000, that's your maximum. And some of our companies are seeing that. But I like to talk. I'm real. I like to talk about the real numbers. Those real numbers between $15,000, $20,000. So it really comes back to that opportunity cost. What is the cost of a couple of hours of your time to prepare this, to get the documentations, to allow Jorns to do all that heavy lifting, to allow them to come back and present to you an evaluation that says, yeah, you were nominally or you were directly impacted. Here's your qualification report. We think you're going to get $86,500. What's that? Is that worth that couple hours of time to prepare?
I'm so glad you put it that way, because as a business owner, I've spent days chasing a job, a project. So if I had the opportunity to get the $100,000 contract, wouldn't I spend half a day? I'd block out the morning and say, I'm just going to give this a try. because I want to see if I can land that job. So to walk away from that just makes no sense whatsoever, I think. And so I'm so glad you put it that way. So what are we talking? Is this gonna, when does the window close on this thing? I mean, this can't go on forever. Where are we in the timeline of this whole thing? And what does that mean to companies like yourself and Jorns? They're in it for the long haul. You know, this program isn't going to go on forever. And can I just, I'm back to being busy. It's all I can do right now to make sure that I am where I need to be. My wife tells me I need to be for family activities. Can I mess with this in January and February?
Well, it's a busy time of the year, and I get that. You know, this program was designed with an end date. It was in inception. It had rules and regulations through the IRS. There are portions of it that expire at the beginning of next year, the next tax filing season. When we talk through the process of engagement with Jorns, and that evaluation process is a 10 to 12 week process. So we start working backwards of what we can do and how we know that we can get filed. So in order to maximize this program, which is to take advantage of the full 2020 and 2021 funds that are on the table, you've got it up there. Now is the time. That's been my marketing campaign for 6 months, because anybody that's going to see this, act now is an important thing. But now is very important, because a portion of this program starts to expire. And the workload of Jorns is exponentially growing. I mean, they're trying to stay with it with staff and growing too. But if you've got questions, or if you're ready to engage with this thing, this is not a first of the year project. Get engaged, get going now. Jorns and Associates has just so believe in this. You know, we didn't even talk about it, and I'm sure one of your questions will be next steps. But part of their up until the last, just December, what are we, 12 days into December, had a $2,600 engagement fee. It was refundable, and it went toward contingency fee, went toward everything. So it was still risk free, but you had to come out and put a little skin in the game. They've waived that. They want as many people to take advantage of this program and act now. They've waived that till the end of the year. So when we talk about now is the time, it's like a trifecta of why now is the time. One, don't wait any longer. Get the evaluation started, so you know, because when it's first in, first out. It's the federal government. They are not fast with anything, but get it done. It's purely risk-free. A couple hours of your time, and a $10 billion company is going to go to bat for you to prepare a dossier, perform a comprehensive qualification report for you, for your company. 5 employees, 499 employees. They're going to give a phenomenal report saying, yes, you qualified, and here's for how much. And then in order to maximize, to stay at those numbers that we were talking about, we've got to enact now, because part of that program rolls off at filing time in April 15th of 2024, but there's a window that it takes to prepare that. So hope I've built
no, we get right on, right? Absolutely dead on it, as you have with every one of these questions. I've heard you say this before. At the end of the day, wouldn't you really want to know for sure? And that's what was ringing in the back of my mind. And I think if I were to ask you this, what would you tell yourself, back, a year or so ago when you were approached? What would you tell yourself now that you wish you'd known then? When someone first approached you and you had the barriers and the questions and stuff, what would you like to go back and tell yourself, knowing what you know now?
That's a great question. As a career entrepreneur, as a company that had definitely been devastated by the pandemic, we were first in line for PPP. We were first in line for PPP2 for our business. So I was irritated at myself when someone came to say, hey, have you done ERC? And I'm like, what's ERC? Didn't even know it was available to me. It was a no-brainer for us. Didn't give it a second thought. My accountant said, no, you don't need to do that. And I said, I don't care what you say. You're not the one that's got your house on the line with the business. So the evolution of how I look at it versus anybody else and them making their own evaluation about the program. I think those words you've got on the slide right now, wouldn't you want to know? I mean, this money's been allocated to businesses. It's a real program. It's backed by a company that's second to none out there doing this. You are in control. So it's risk-free. It's a couple hours of your time. Why would you not forget the accountant, forget this? And again, I'm not disparaging accountants. I want to be very clear as we come up to this, because I'll say some pretty nasty things toe to toe with accountants. But 95% of the time when I get an accountant to actually have a conversation with me, they're like, oh, yeah, you really should look at this. Take the evaluation to your accountant. Let them look at, oh, well, I didn't, and what you're going to hear is, I didn't know. So I think that's the biggest thing that, I think as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, it's always hard for us to say that. Know what you know what you don't know. There's a lot of adages out there about surrounding yourself with strong people. That's why you've got an accountant, because you don't do that. You're going to them. Well, again, surround yourself with these experts. Allow them to do this. It's not going to be around that much longer. Jordan's will be, as a specialty tax firm. There will be additional programs. That's another question we didn't even touch on. Was Jordan's going to be there to support all this? Absolutely. $10 billion company, lots of licenses at play there. They're going to stand behind it, and they're going to do other things. There's going to be other programs that they'll work through as a specialty tax firm. But wouldn't you want to know? Just wouldn't you want to know for sure you're not leaving these funds that are allocated? Because we hadn't talked about that. Those funds, you don't claim them, they go right back into the general fund of whatever's going to happen out of the budget.
And you mentioned George. You highly recommend people to go look them up, check their history, check all their stuff, A++, 5-star, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, if you go, you can go to the IRS website, and then under the trusted tax professionals, if you want to do that, do Justin Jorns. He's the namesake of the company. He's the head accountant. All of their legal counsel, tax attorneys, all are listed there. But by the namesake, Jorns and Associates, they're listed there as a trusted tax professional. Doesn't really need to go much more of a pedigree than that. Then you start looking at the experience. There's other trusted tax professionals out there doing this too. What I'll pose to you is Jorns and Associates is the #1 specialty tax firm. They've done it a bunch. They know what they're doing. They partner with you truly from a partnership, from an entrepreneurship, not just a service provider that's in and out and nothing in it.
And you've personally experienced, you've seen the money go into the accounts, no, smoke and mirrors, no, okay, you got to leap through this. Oh, one more thing we need. Oh, you got to go and do this with the money. You've seen it transfer and not a problem.
Correct. Experienced it
firsthand. All right. So this is the best part. You had me at hello. I'm interested. What are the next steps? What does someone do if they want to get engaged and they're like, okay, quit talking. Tell me what to do next. What do you recommend is the next step?
Well, of our portfolio of business, I've been blessed. I've had a hand in touching every single client in some fashion. Some I spend more time with, have longer conversations with. Some it's just, Grant, here's the 5 pieces of information. Get me going. But I put my information out there for everybody. I'll happily talk to any and everybody about it. So our website, we talked a little bit about that, DeltaERC.com. You can go there. It's a simple location and landing page for our company where you can get to us directly if you forget it, but info@DeltaERC, or if you'd like to reach out to me directly, Grant@DeltaERC.com. I'm going to ask you for 5 pieces of information: your legal business name, as you file your 941s, what's on that form is what we need, who's going to be the point of contact, their email, phone number, and the approximate number of employees that you have. I'm going to put that in a portal for Jorns. Jorns will prepare a very simple 4-page hello sign kind of a document that you do. That $2,600 is waived, no engagement fee. You are at that point, you sign that, you're engaged with Jorns to do this. It's going to open up a portal, start getting a list of the documents that you need to get together, the format they need that in. You're assigned an account manager. Again, now this is on Jorns' dime. They're working for you now, not knowing if they're going to get anything out of it. You're going to agree to their terms. The account manager is going to work you through. If you run into an off-brand accounting program, they'll hop on there and show you how to pull the reports and get them in the format, get them uploaded to your portal. You're going to answer those questions, and then the evaluation process starts. 10 to 12 weeks later, you're going to know, and I'm actually seeing it a lot quicker than that, but that's what we like to use as a timeline. You're going to know how much you qualify for and that you qualified. They'll prepare the documents, get them to you for final review. You sign them. They do a final audit. They sign off on them, file for you. 120 days, 180 days later, you get this nice big U.S. Treasury check back in the mail, overpayment of taxes, your payroll taxes, refund. You deposit that and spend it how you'd like.
So you said something. I think we've been so focused on kind of the big picture stuff, and we certainly didn't mean to bury this at all. But obviously, in the big picture, $2,600 isn't a big deal. But you know, when things are tight and at holidays and all that kind of stuff. So let me hit that again. There's a deposit that gets put down towards, that's what Jorns needs to get going. There's a program going right now where that's waived. I'm going to let you say this, but I just want to make sure that I'm hearing you correctly. There is a small window right now, back to the times now, where that's being actually waived because they're trying to get as many in as they can before the end of the year. But the worst case scenario, air quotes, is you're going to tie up $2,600 until you get a no, which I think you told me is infinitesimal almost. So it's your deposit. It's that future, you know, to be in the system. And then does that get taken out of what the retention? In other words, hey, I got a check for $100,000 minus 2,600.
Yeah. So what happens is that with the $2,600 fully refundable, if you fall in that less than 10% of those that don't qualify. And then, and for our agency, we're still sitting at 100%. Every one of the 500 plus that have engaged us have qualified. But the funds comes as a refund check back to you. When that's all said and done, you image that paperwork. Jorns sends you an invoice for their contingency fee. It's a 20% contingency fee. Like you said, we've been hitting high level. We didn't talk to, Shirley didn't mean to embed that. But they do the work, they get paid, the more money they make you, again, that they can stand behind and defend, the better it is. If that deposit is present, then it goes toward those contingency fees. So it's not 20% plus 2,600, it's 20%. And then you write the check to them for that 20%. And currently, till the end of the year, that 2,600 is waived. So even more of a reason, why would you not do this? Why would you not allow them to perform this evaluation? They're carrying the burden of the work and the effort to know for sure.
Well, man, I can't thank you enough for taking time. I know you're busy. You've got to be just crazy busy, especially with this special promotion going on and the end of the year and all that stuff. So personally, thank you so much for taking time. I'm excited about what may come of this and who stumbles on this video. Hopefully it gets passed along. Please hit the like button. Please share this with somebody. It could mean the difference. Gosh, to begin to think what that could mean. I certainly don't like going down that path of we've all been in the presentations that, what would you do with an extra, blah, blah, blah. What would you, not multi-level. This is your money. This is information. Information is power. And this is certainly incredibly powerful. So Grant, thank you so much for your time. Is there any parting bits of wisdom? I don't want to cut you off too soon. Is there anything we didn't cover? I want to give you a chance to share.
No, I really appreciate the opportunity. I mean, when we created the company, it was really to help just a couple of friends, family, nonprofits that I knew, just having been a career entrepreneur, and it has turned into just a flourishing business here. But it's a business helping people. It's a business educating people about a program that they didn't, like me. What's this ERC thing?
Right. Yeah. You bring up an interesting point. Part of me would like to have somebody that they're watching this tell us maybe in the comments, I did this, and here's what I was able to do with that extra money, that the money I hadn't planned on, I didn't know about. Here's what I did. So I'd love to hear some of those stories. Obviously not through Delta, not through Jorns. I mean, tell us what you did. I know there's got to be some amazing stories, and I know, Grant, you have some amazing stories through this that you've been blessed by. I just started out trying to help a few friends and some family, and now it's grown into a business, and so that's pretty exciting. Can we do this again? Can we? I'd
love to. I'm here to help. I mean, that's my screen froze up a little bit, and I think you picked it right up going. That's the biggest thing. And allow me to help you. Allow me just 15 minutes. I know we've gone a long time here, but every business is unique. There's nuances and caveats. Allow me to address your specific concerns. I'll make sure that's the case, and then allow me to let Jorns engage you with Jorns to tell you for sure. And you'll know for sure. Worst case scenario, you lose a couple hours worth of your work, and I get to meet a new friend, a new business owner, and maybe there'll be something down the road that we can help each other. That's worst case scenario. Best case scenario, you get these funds a few months from now, you've got a windfall of this money that's your money back in your hands, allowing you to do with it as you see fit.
Awesome. Grant, again, thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Please pass the word along, and we will be back again next time on Ask the Expert, Delta ERC. Thanks, buddy.
Hey, thanks.